Yes. We are back, the King of Mondays. We're back in the middle of the ring, ready for another spectacular knockout. My brother, he just fell off as soon as we did the introduction. So why is that always happening? Here we go again. Here he is back again. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
How you doing, brother?
Okay. Yes. Let me see if you added in. Okay. Yeah, you added in there. Okay, let's go back to the screen. Yeah, as soon as we came in, it popped you off. It's crazy.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I mean, you know, the old tricks, they need to come up with some new tricks because that's old. It doesn't stop anything, just a little delay tactics or whatever.
Exactly.
Well,
I have to
Huh?
No, I'm good. I had a full day today. I had to do a little running around, get some materials for some work to be done tomorrow. Yep. And yeah, then I came back and my equipment, there's one little glitch in it that threw off the audio with the usual stuff that I do. So I'm going through the phone right now. So I just want to make sure that my sound is okay. Yeah. And if you can hear me loud and clear.
I can. I don't know about the, yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. So how's it going over there? Everything's good. I know it's heating up here in the United States.
Yes. And let me just say, talking about the United States, we have a person, a great man in the chat room, Brother Christopher Mudd. He's on Facebook. The great Christopher Mudd, the brother of the same mind. This brother is so deep. I mean,
yes.
We go a long way back in Florida. Say it again.
Greetings, Brother Christopher.
Yes, he's a deep brother, man. If you threw him in this conversation with you, he'd roll with it just as easy.
I know he would.
I've learned so much from him in the conversations we had, and we definitely have to connect. But I got to give you your props, Chris. But anyway, brother, let's roll with it. But I had to give Mr. Mudd his props.
Absolutely. And sure, Lance, if he'd like to contribute, he can come in. Not an issue.
Okay, Brother Chris, if you wanted to come in, man, and just, if you want to add anything in, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. If you wanted, he said he'll connect soon. Okay, but I'm going to still put the link there.
Okay.
Trust me. If you want to come in, if it's not the problem, hit that link right there, brother, in the chat room. And that you see up on the screen. Okay. Oh, this one here. But see, I disconnected. He's watching from Facebook, but I don't see it coming up on Facebook. So it's right there on the screen.
And we have talked before. There's a good and bad polarity to everything. Facebook has some advantages. It's just that when wicked people use it for that purpose, then it kind of overshadows everything else. But we have some powerful brothers in our community that, just like they do you, they pretty much try to silence. But when we collectively attack, like when they get together in their boardrooms and come up with things to attack us, we can do the same thing. So I have no issue with adding something to our conversation that is definitely going to open the floodgates for us in terms of us dealing on a certain level.
Yes.
And greetings to the family out there in the chat room. This subject, Brother Lance, is something that I really for a long time wanted to really deal with. And
Right.
so today, if you want to start out with your.
Oh, most definitely. Let me, you froze up for a second, but I'm going to start out with the banner, and I hope you don't cut off again, but if you do, come right back on in. And I hope everybody can hear me. It's like every time we get our show going on, you know, those powers that be, those dark forces. Yes, I'm going to put the banner up and talk. But Brother Neil, you're frozen on my side, so I don't know if you can hear me or anything. So but it wasn't really anything monumental with this banner. It's just that and it doesn't say, okay, there it is. Okay, brother, you're back in.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I unplugged.
I mean, yeah, you know, because I use the word BITCH, AI thought it was something lewd. They didn't know that this stood for something. And
see,
if I did,
because it's not even in their data.
Yeah. And most people don't understand now that AI runs YouTube with the small hats that they're commanding programming.
Google, right?
Well, yeah, but it's AI. Yeah, because Google owns YouTube.
Right.
And they say Google is the biggest search engine, and also YouTube is the second biggest. But Google is the big daddy of YouTube, and it's all tied in together. But now they're running it with AI more than anything else. So you're not dealing with a human being. It's programmed. It's like soon as
that's amazing.
It looks like a violation.
I didn't think about that, but I didn't think about that.
Oh no, it's no problem. It's no problem. It crossed my mind, but I put it up anyway, figuring that they know so much, they would understand what it means in the context of the title. But they had that word flagged, so they didn't do anything bad. They just
right.
You know, it probably won't go out there as much, but I'm gonna make sure that it does. But it's AI now. You're not dealing with a human being, and when they strike you down in any way, you can't even get to a human being half the time. And when you do, they can't give you an answer on what AI decided to do. So now you really got to tiptoe through the tulips, because this is a dry run for a lot of other things that we'll talk about on another topic, because they're really crunching down on the control of what we can say.
I know.
They're going to, I heard Google is going to remove the search bar, because now
I heard that too.
Yeah, they have accrued so much information on each of us as individuals. There's no need. They're going to serve you up with what they want to serve you up with. You can't even be curious and want to research certain things after a while. So that you know, there is no more privacy. I really don't care, because I stopped having privacy for a long time ago, the way they did me. But yeah. So we still have to speak boldly, and I'm going to try to restructure everything on a very mighty level. There's a guy who knows a lot about, you know, dipping and dodging, and it'll come back, but it's very tedious. But like I said today, my equipment, it all works, but certain things that I had downloaded had stopped other things from working. So this is why I'm going through the phone right now. It might be like that for a couple of days, although I can upload with no problem when I create something here. So that being said, really and truly, this was an easy banner to make because of the title. And so this is how I had to have the students in the background on the right-hand side, you know, taking the test. And, you know, like you see up on top, you know, the bitch test, a classroom experiment. Okay, brother, I'm gonna let you back in. Okay. Yeah, you fell off again. Okay, there you go. You're back. But yeah. So the banner was quite easy to make. It wasn't anything abstract. Welcome, Sister Queen Diane. Happy to see you here. Yes, the King of Mondays is here. So yeah, it was pretty much a no-brainer, because it had to involve a classroom and taking the test. But to see it, you know, people, you hear this stuff and it's something easy to think about, but you have to really see it. And with these different tests on our intelligence and things that are slanted, it's always been that way, you know, because we're bigger than any one little test the way they want to see, because the others, they don't think like us. We think in a very open, inclusive way where we have so many gears to our mental vehicles that we can outthink them. But when they put us into their structures and want to micromanage or slice it up, they want to call us stupid. You know what I mean? But if we're left alone, look, there's a guy, and I'm gonna leave it at this. There was a guy, I was walking through Greenwich Village many years ago, an old girlfriend of mine. I had to say with an old girlfriend because Greenwich Village is known for a lot of colorful rainbow stuff in New York City.
Right.
But I like it down there with the boutiques, the restaurants, and different things. But always have a young lady on your arm if you're a straight man. But that being said, there was a brother down there. He was, I believe he was in the Nation of Islam, but he was on a street corner and he had a crowd around him, and he wasn't talking the usual stuff that we understand that the nation speaks of, which is not bad, but he was speaking about a different way of adding and subtracting mathematical equations. So he asked people, there was a person there that had a calculator. So we had to throw numbers at him. Not everybody, but like he chose me. I was there, and after a while he says, brother, you want to throw another equation at me? Here's the calculator. I made something up off the top of my head. And as I punched in the numbers, I was like 3,522 divided by 17 times 5. And as soon as I hit it, he's in front of me. He took an extra 3 seconds and he gave me the exact answer. It was unbelievable. You know what I mean? He gave me the exact answer. And I thought it was a trick. So I was like, I gave him another one. And I don't remember what it was, but let's just say it was, 257,000 minus 190,000 divided by 4. Boom.
Yeah.
And he gave me the answer.
I believe it.
Yeah, he did. And he said there's a way to do that and figure it out, but he knows how to do it quick. And a lot of the people in his college where he went, which he said was a very narrow-minded way of learning, they were bedazzled by it and they were angered by it, because how do you do this and you're a black man? And he was telling them how the way they did mathematics was inferior in long form. You can do anything in your head if you know how to, and people were fascinated.
That's true.
I witnessed this with my own eyes. And and this was long before. This was back in the 80s. Yeah.
There are a lot of deception games we used to play for fun, like the one where they used to be on the streets with the cards and the cup, and they tell you
right.
ball and tell you to pick.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and the old adage, the hand is quicker than the eye. But it's interesting, and we're going to cover some of this today, that you would say that, because there's a group of people that they call idiot savants, right? But that's only because it's not within their scale or standard of understanding, right?
Right.
So this guy named Steve, I can't think of his last name, but I believe about 3 years ago we did a show on him where he flew over the city of London. He had this gift where they said he was he had a photographic memory. So he was in an airplane flying over the city of London, and he drew everything in that square block that he focused on, and took the picture. He took he put the watches on people's hands with the exact time.
Right.
He drew little rats by the trash can, right? He drew every building with every window, with people sitting in the window that was actually sitting there at that time, because they went back. And I don't know exactly how they did it, but they mapped it out based on his photographic memory. And they brought in the best engineers, architects from London, and they were
Okay, you're freezing up and fading out from my end, brother. Let me know if you can still hear me in the chat room. Okay, here he is again.
You know, whenever we start talking about what we're talking about, it's beyond their memorandum of understanding. So they're going to be disruptive.
Yeah.
So it's okay. What's meant to be will be, and they can't stop it. But they begin to become frightened of him. Okay. And it's a young black guy. And, you know, just like all kids with some form of autism, they create their own world. Well, all of us do this, but they just do it more to an extreme.
Right.
And so, long story short, the architects and the engineers that actually helped with constructing some of the buildings that he drew, they were astonished. They said, do you know how long it takes us to even not just conceptualize, but to draw it?
Right.
And this guy did this flying over London. So there is I'm glad you brought that up, Lance, because that is a big part of the distinction that we're going to make about us and why we always say we don't know who we are, because we've been regulated to again, as we always say, a caterpillar comprehension of things based on human intellect. But the thing I like about your particular, I like the Malcolm X pose with the brother.
Yes.
Going into the mind. Oh, I know you, brother. I know you're a deep diver. So I like the question mark in the brain, because when you have Black kids who are kinesthetic learners, meaning they don't need instructions to do anything, they come to the same, and you and I often talk about this, where when they identify people with that gift like you, the teachers would get frustrated because they would say, okay, but that's not the right answer, but it is. I don't have to arrive at the answer the same way you do or use the same methodology, as long as we have the same goal and that goal is met. And see, this has always been a sticking point for us. And we'll go into today. The other thing is, when you're looking at the kids there, and Dr. Williams, Robert Williams, a fascinating man. And, you know, a lot of our, again, we know this, our scholars have been, case in point, like, you know, AI not knowing that the bitch test is really from a Black scholar, which it should be known. Okay, hopefully after the day it will be known. They're probably going to try to block a lot of it. But the point is, these kids going in there.
Let me know if you can hear, chat room. Okay, he fell off again. Okay, here he is. All right, brother, you back in.
Okay, so in their heads, they're dealing with all kind of stuff, because again, we are spiritual beings. So when we look at things, we interpret things through symbols and images. And we're going to cover that today, brother. And I guess we should go ahead, because the Azul system is, they're throwing jabs. So let's just go ahead. And but again, another great banner. It shows the type of things that our children have to deal with when they are stuck at that. And the first visual I want to show is what nature teaches us about the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? Yes, thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see, let's talk about something that's very, very important, because this is at the crust of our discussion today. There is spiritual wisdom, and then there's human intelligence. And today we're going to show how standardized tests was a way that they countered our spiritual wisdom. Because again, when we're taught by nature, you see the question here the caterpillar is asking or saying to black folks, you've changed. And so the black folks who are woke now say, yeah, we're supposed to. And see, this is the real difference between the creator, the butterfly, and the God that was created, or a zoo,
Right.
Borgia. That caterpillar intellect is what really has put us in the position that we're in. So I often say you can't have butterfly conversations with caterpillar people. And so Izul is going to continue to, Lance, I got to take this call. Hold on
Sure,
for a
take your
second.
time, brother.
Yeah, hold on.
Thank you, Sister Diane.
Yeah. Hold on, let's see.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
Even on mine, I gotta
I'm sorry,
disconnect
I have
everything.
I'm sorry I have
Yeah, no
to
problem.
do this. But
Yeah, no problem. No problem. It's
all right,
more
this is gonna
realistic.
take 30 seconds.
Yeah, take your time. Why I'm doing this through
Hello?
the phone is because I had to disconnect all my equipment because there's something
Okay.
off
Hey, let
in
me
it.
check something in front of the house, man. She got the gift. Use it. I'll be right
Yes,
back.
indeed. Yeah, I ripped and ran today. I had to get stuff ready for tomorrow to have the right materials here for the guys that are coming. And I threw up something early, really short. And that's the reason why, is because I've been doing a lot outside of just online. And you know, it's furious to keep up, but I'm not gonna stop. So when I came back, there was a little problem that I had with a certain connection with my audio pad. And I think I know what it is. I'm gonna have to reset everything. And I didn't have enough time once I got in. I had enough time to set everything up, but the problem persisted. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to go through the phone. But I'm also using the computer to run everything. But it's a lot of things that I have connected, you know, to produce it like I do. So after the show tonight, I got something else to do, but I'm gonna take everything apart and put it all back together. But I have a hunch what it is. So I'm gonna have to reset some things, you know. So it's part of doing it. I mean, some creators they have their phone, they click a button, go live, and click it off. You know, I like to have my stuff a little more elaborate, you know, especially when you're distributing stuff all over the place. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. And Neil fell off again, but that's okay. He'll be back. And oh, okay, let me see. No, he's not back yet. He'll be back. So in that journey and juggling so many other things, you know, it's still a peaceful, tranquil life, but you know, I try to get a lot done, and a lot more than what most know. So that's what it's all about. So even now, my brain is ticking on other content that I want to make. I may try to do something tonight. I can still throw stuff up, but it won't be traditionally live. But that's okay. I know you'll rock with me, and I rock with you always, and always keep it transparent. When I was out today, there were so many things that I witnessed, and so many things that are going on here in Ghana that with our youth, it could be considered almost as bad as how things are in the United States. But I'm very careful here not to paint a false narrative because, okay, here he is. Well, I'm going to talk about that after. So,
Okay, brother,
here's
I had
Brother
to
Neil
handle
again.
something.
No. You know, you push the button and I'll talk. You can wake me up out of my sleep and I'll talk.
That I know. You got that gift. But here, and this is at the fundamental root of what we're going to discuss today, because we have been put into a situation where all of our interactions and even the value system and everything we're judged by in America is based on this caterpillar standardized testing type of structure, right?
Yes.
But when you look at nature, the caterpillar, and I don't like that word superior or inferior, but for sake of what we're talking about today, because others have always tried to paint us as inferior intellectually, we're going to show today that the creator, which the butterfly represents, is telling the caterpillar, we're supposed to. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to be. This is your purpose in life. Your purpose is not to be led by a caterpillar. So I guess the butterfly said, well, I'll drink to that. You know, let me sip a little wine, because this is the actual absolute truth. So even when people say, let's make something great again, you cannot improve on the creator. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times we don't think things through because we have the wrong teacher, whereas nature is our greatest teacher. So I wanted to bring that out today because, again, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah. Freeze it up again, brother. I don't know if you could hear him, but I can't. Let me know what's going on here from your end in the chat room. Brother Neil, you're frozen. I want to check something from this end.
I see that I'm going to have to invoke our ancestors since they're trying so hard to block us today.
Yeah, big time.
Some of that Gully Geechee, Georgia hoodoo, and some of that Jamaica Queens hoodoo. Yeah, that'll back them up. But they're intent on stopping something that they have no power to stop, because
Thank
as
you,
many
Chris.
jabs as they throw, we can come right back.
Exactly. Because every time you throw a punch, you leave yourself open for a punch.
There you go. Go. Yes, you do.
You throw a left jab at me, I can hook you to the body. You know what I mean? So
oh yeah,
they can get it back.
Sugar Ray was the best at that, and that was a good show. We have to talk about that sometimes. That's sad that our family can inflict the most pain on us.
Yeah, that's the way it usually is.
Yeah. But I remember when my sophomore year at Morgan, he used to put on exhibitions for the kids in our gymnasium. And it used because I think he was from Palmer Park, Maryland.
Yeah, Palmer Park, Maryland.
Yeah. So he used to come up to Morgan and in the summertime and put on exhibitions, be a bunch of teenagers from Baltimore, even as far as DC and other places, to come there. And he didn't charge or anything. Great guy, man. It's kind of hard to swallow, but that's the reality, you know, that we have to deal with a lot of times with our children. You know, once you become a dad, regardless of what your relationship is with your children, whenever they do something, it cuts you to the heart.
Yeah.
And that's why I always think about my parents and the things they had to endure that I never knew about. We just took for granted. But yeah, so finally with this, when you talk about making
okay, yeah, it's happening again. I don't know if you're going to have to do something alternative with this. I already have an idea, but we may have to do this It's all going to have to come back to the website.
I know what it
They
is.
can't touch it.
Every time I
Neil?
use that terminology,
Yes.
Making something again, I think it's a trigger. Well, anyway,
it's all run by AI, so they're gonna chop you down. Exactly.
Oh yeah. So
I'm gonna suggest something else real quick.
Okay.
Maybe next week we can go live on the website and everybody can access it, right? And then after it's finished and no interruptions, because we won't have AI to deal with off of YouTube, we'll upload it to directly to YouTube with no interruptions.
Now that's butterfly thinking. That's it. And that's a great idea, because the fact of the matter is the message that the creator intended to get out is going to get out.
Of course.
So, yeah. So when we look at this finally, we get the message that when in the creator-creatrix spectrum, the spiritual wisdom that we possess, and why things are so confusing for us being judged by a caterpillar system, is that you're going backwards in order to meet the value system of something that you already came out of. Matter of fact, you were in a cocoon and your whole body changed.
Right.
So, but like you pointed out one time, brother, and I came to the understanding and comprehension of this, that caterpillar spirit never really left. It's still somewhere in the psyche or the subconscious of our people. So it's just a matter of, that's why knowing who you are is so important. Okay, brother, so let's go into this today. Since we have that, what I'll do is I'll incorporate the visuals. So you know the one I sent with Earth, Wind, and Fire. I want to...
Okay, you fell off again, brother. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that next week when we get away from YouTube. It's just too crazy. And if they're blocking us ahead of YouTube, it'll be everywhere. So we have to stay off of it and just upload stuff. And that's the reason why I stay on YouTube, is to meet strangers who don't know what we do, to bring them into what we do. You see, so I'm not dependent on YouTube anymore. I'm still there and will always be there. But it's like that guy who's passing out flyers for his club after the whole at the door of the other club, when the other club is letting out. And then you go out and you see it under your windshield wipers and you see it, you know. So I'm letting you know, hey, this is where it's going to be live. And then we'll later on put it up. So, you know, it's almost like having your premises bombed. We're going to have our meetings somewhere else where they don't know, you know. So I've been dealing with this for years. I've been dealing with this a long time, actually. A long time. I would say back from 2005 in different ways, when I realized that people who speak a certain way, they surveil them. And it's not because I'm or trying to paint myself as to be some great revolutionary, no, but the old platform that had much more subscribers, you know, we spoke to so many different people and so many different factions and different revolutionary beliefs. And I never, you know, censored them. And when I started to get attention different ways, and I wasn't out there trying to get attention, we just talked every single day and had some deep conversations. And people all over the world and really all over America jumped in, whether they were a gang leader or they were part of the Black Panther Party or Nation of Islam or 12 tribes or whatever. You know, we talked about it, as long as it was blackness, you know, and I refused to be compromised. You know, I had a few around the way offers thrown my way in an indirect way. You know, you couldn't say, but you knew exactly what it was. And a lot of people took the bait. And I don't mention names, only in private, but there are a lot of creators now that have 1 million+ subscribers and a bigger reach and can get away with a lot more. But when Master comes around and tells them what they have to say, they better say it, or say it in a slanted way. You see, right now, America, the government, military, they're trying their best to get their claws in the motherland over here. You see, I might talk about that tonight. Here's Brother Neil again. Let me let him on in. Okay, he fell right off again. Unbelievable. But like I was saying, they're fighting hard to get over here. Already, the American government is dealing with Ghanaian police and higher ups and working along with them to have Ghana surveilled. You see, the drones and different things, because they know.
Okay, brother. So,
yeah, go ahead. So,
yeah, sorry. So, I'm learning to play this game with them now since they're doing this. So somehow they have tapped into my iPad. So I'm on my phone now. Let's see if they can do the same, because this has been done with a couple of Zooms that I go on. You know, they're fighting the academy really hard. I have an idea. I don't know why, but we both know. I won't go on and say it live. But anyway, back to our presentation. The picture with Earth, Wind, and Fire is extremely important to us. And that is because when you're dealing with the human intellect, there is a power greater that supersedes that. Okay. So this is why you are constantly being uploaded from the Azul system, why things are constantly being uploaded to you, when in actuality, you're supposed to be getting downloads from the creative spirit, like what you see here. And these brothers, as I always say, they were ahead of their time. But they're showing us how we're supposed to function. Okay, so now there is no level of human intellect that exists in that cloud you see above the head of them, right? There are no standardized tests. There's no anything. There's no instructions. It's just the download of the spiritual wisdom that you're supposed to be guided by that you get. Okay. Now, with that in mind, let's go into the topic today. Again, the IQ deception, what the BITCH test proves about standardized testing. So first of all, human intelligence refers to the mind's ability to one, learn and understand information, two, to reason logically, and three, to solve problems. Also to adapt to new circumstances. Now, just on the definition of human intelligence, how can you say someone is intelligent when what I just read is absent from the people that are running our society today? So just without even dealing with spiritual wisdom, let's deal with caterpillar mentality. It's the mind's ability to learn and understand information, to reason logically, or to solve problems, and to adapt to new circumstances. So if you're saying that you have a high IQ, then this is what you're supposed to be doing when we see the very opposite of this, right?
Right. So
how can you even say that you have a superior intellect or use the word supreme in your lexicon when you have not even demonstrated the basic functions of human intelligence? Also, you guys can hear me good now, Lance?
Yes, I can hear you. If anybody can't hear, Brother Neil, just let us know in the chat room. There's a lot of funny business going on right now, but we're going to keep on going.
Yeah, it is. I think I was able to usurp them by going through my phone. Because again, they've been attacking my iPad. I don't know how. I'm sure there are technical ways for about a month now. So, okay, as long as you guys can hear me, I'll go ahead. You there? Okay, brother. So
yes,
intelligence is, okay, intelligence is often associated with knowledge, memory, critical thinking, creativity, and the ability to process information. Okay. A highly intelligent person may be skilled in science, mathematics, language, technology, or strategy. So again, when we're talking about intelligence, what we don't see in our society today by people who say they are highly intelligent, which we know they are not, because you don't meet the basic criterion for human intelligence. Okay, again, I'm gonna read that. Intelligence is often associated with knowledge, memory, critical thinking, which there is none, creativity, which is thrown out the door because of the certain mentalities of the highly intelligent, and the ability to process information. So that's why I always ask the question, if you're a coach, if you're someone that's running a business, if you're a CEO, founder, executive director, or you're the person in charge of your life, the captain of your own ship, then you have to have these basic skills. And if you don't have these skills, then you don't even fit the criteria. I don't care what the scale is you have for intelligence, okay? Then if you don't meet the basic criterion, then how can you even say that you have human intelligence? You may have Neanderthal intelligence, because that's based on clubbing somebody over the head or dragging a woman by her feet, okay, or having a woman locked up in a house cooking for you all day so you can say that you're a man. Right. See, this, when we look at these things, then we see where the error of our ways are. And by no means am I trying to paint myself, God knows, as some perfect man. All I'm saying is that we can solve these issues, but we've got to be honest with ourselves. And we've got to go back to the creator system, which we see here today with the downloads from our brothers, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And all you got to do is go look at the symbols on their album covers, and you'll see what they were about. Okay, so let's move from human intelligence to spiritual wisdom before we go into our next visual. So spiritual wisdom defines who you are, okay? And this is why when we say you don't know who you are, it's not a slight, it's just saying that you have been taken back to the time when the caterpillar thought he was great or she was great. But for you, based on the creatrix standards and values, then you're a butterfly, or you're supposed to be one. Okay, so spiritual wisdom is usually understood as a deeper understanding of life, meaning life, meaning, values, and human existence. It often involves, number one, self-awareness, who you are, okay? Number two, compassion and empathy. Now, I want to say something about this because, again, all you have to do is listen, stop emotionally battling with caterpillars, caterpillar intellect. All you have to do is sit back with your popcorn, look at this and say, if a person says that you should not have compassion or empathy for another human being, then this is outside the spectrum of spiritual wisdom. Okay? I don't care how many scriptures you quote. I don't care how many prayers you put up. I don't care what your thinking is about Caesar Borgia or how many times you say that name. If you exclude in your actions and behavior, and I'm not saying you have to be a sucker for anybody, but when you have a soul and you get spiritual wisdom from what we see from earth, wind, and fire, from that visual we saw, then that is a part of sun energy. Okay, thirdly, moral discernment. Now, you know, this is the one area, and I'm going to keep it real. Every time our children get out here, and this is why we're saying that social media or Facebook or whatever, and the other ones, TikTok or what have you, there's a good side and there's a bad side. So when you organize, when you're allowed, when teenagers organize to do these things, and then they explode from the trauma, and I'm not making any excuses, it's still wrong, a lot of the things that are going on. But now this is actually a result of the fact that we as Black people have put the caterpillar value system into our children. Okay, so we have to take, me included, at least 50% of the responsibility of what we see. But my point is, they're going to highlight this stuff. Now, that's 1/10 of the behavior of our people. The other 90% of our people, including our children, that are doing great things in our society, you never see that on mainstream media. Never. Okay. So the failure of us to value this spiritual wisdom that we're supposed to be valuing in our children, then we put them in an unfair advantage where they have to compete against a system that is already diametrically opposed to their success. You see, they want to take you back. So remember, they're fighting against this same system. And again, I am in no way excusing a lot of the behavior that's going on. I'm simply saying that we have the right to criticize what we see is a problem in our own community and our own culture. Okay, but this can be fixed if we go back and institute our spiritual wisdom and infuse that into our society. Okay. Also, humility. Now, a lot of times these words are misnomers to us because, again, you get your definition from the narratives written from the caterpillar system. But humility is actually a higher strength. It doesn't mean that you have to submit to your will to someone. It means that you recognize that the creator creatrix created this being, okay, and that I have some comprehension and understanding of the fact that they deserve the same amount of attention to their particular needs as I do, okay, or the equitable distribution of the resources here, which we know will never happen, okay. But this spiritual wisdom is so deep, and this is what they're pretending when you go in these facilities to teach you. But see, behavior is our greatest teacher, not rhetoric, okay? The one thing that I am thankful that they are doing is they are letting you know that their Azul system is different from yours. I don't care how much you say that name or quote those scripts. It doesn't mean the same thing to you, and it's damaging our children being able to fight against this, okay? Lastly about this, a person that operates off of spiritual wisdom or sun energy, they have insight into their purpose. Okay, it's not based on fiat, even though we need that in their system to survive. And that's only because we don't trade with each other. And also, we know that the suffering is also part of personal growth. But we look at suffering the wrong way. I don't even like that word suffering, although it is a proper term because Black folks do suffer a lot of trauma and mainly emotional trauma. But these are things that we can't let people hijack away from us because you are a Homo sapien, to use their words. So whenever we say you don't know who you are, at least when we talk in the family and Lance, we're talking, we have this comprehension that human beings that operate on spiritual wisdom embody the laws of Mayat, which is truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, and balance. The other thing is a spiritually wise person may not have exceptional intellectual abilities, but they often demonstrate sound judgment, emotional balance, and the ability to navigate life's challenges with perspective and integrity. And don't forget that word integrity, okay? Because the creatrix spirit is a butterfly, not a caterpillar, okay? So I want to talk about the key differences before we actually go into the test, because by going through this will open up our minds to the real issue we have with why you can't judge yourself off of standardized testing and our children off of this. So Lance, any one of the pictures that you have, the one you see where it talks about Silicon Valley and the melanin, it's
is it this one?
Let's see. Yes, that's it. Now, okay. I can't, let's see. Oh yeah, maybe I can blow it up a little bit here. So I just want to comment about this for a second here. So when you see sun energy, okay, then you see that this is the greatest energy that exists, okay? And when you look at that visual, now when I ask you something, I have a lot of respect for Japanese people because they look at nature. They look at whatever is going to, they're not talking about going back 100 years or making Japan, you know what, again.
Right.
They're talking about looking at what is before them. And like I often like to say, if I'm in a game 7, I'm playing in the NBA for the NBA championship, man. Shout out to the Knicks. I know my brother Willis Reed and my brother Coach Nat Frazier looking down or looking around from wherever they are. Their spirit, Marvin Webster, human eraser, Morgan State legend, also a Knicks legend. And you know, when you look at life, you have to humble yourself before the creator spirit because of our spiritual wisdom. And when you look at it and understand this, now, in order to move the world forward, they're using you, melon. That is the ultimate. They cannot move forward, not backwards. And as I was saying, let me finish that thought. I'm not going to have my 2 best players. So I'm not going to have Steph Curry on the bench in the NBA Finals, or I'm not going to have Patrick Ewing on the bench in the NBA Finals, or Michael Jordan, all the great players, right?
Right.
So this is where America and racism has really destroyed. America could be could be the most powerful. But now, when you have a problem with this caterpillar godlike mentality that they want to be worshipped as gods, when you don't comprehend and understand that they are denying the creator, when they deny you, they are denying this right here. And so when they show these memes about them being surprised, the average ignorant ones might be surprised. But trust and believe, these white coats, they know. Okay, brother, if you want to go to that next visual, we're going to show you why they know. Yeah, so here you see the top scientists from around the world. Okay, again, you have the Black and Japanese. They are collaborating because, again, these people, they don't have to play any game about supremacy and none of that. They're trying to move. Well, their society is 100 years ahead of us simply because of this racism dynamic that we deal with. But you see the brother there, right? Explaining to them, the highly intellectual individuals, how this spiritual wisdom and this sun energy has to be used. It cannot be used according to caterpillar standards because that's not going to work. And so when you have people who have this, and you can go back and study the work of Dr. Leola Africa. He breaks this down very good when he talks about how they've been meeting since 45. These same group of people that are at the top of their food chain in terms of getting information from us, real information, and taking it back and then take credit for it. The point here is that when you're talking about moving a society forward, then the individuals who are ahead of these engines that's supposed to move the society forward, not backwards again, then they're going to sit. That's why I always say there will never be any peace until God is seated at the conference table. And I don't care who don't like it, the black man is the God of the planet, okay? And if anybody who has an open pineal gland, butterfly mentality can clearly see this. If it was used the right way, our planet and America would flourish. But because of this great need to, and I began, the creatrix began to teach me, this is the real master class, how this attack on black men have really had a ripple effect on the world.
Of course.
Because now, when you have the greatest receptor of energy that you are blocking, just like you think blocking the sun is going to stop that, which is ignorant, then you have effectively said, okay, I'm against whoever this creator, creatrix is that have this black man here to receive this. And then this is why they can't worship Yeshua. Okay, this is why. Thank God for the Qibla Nagas, which is the true. I'm not going to go off into that, but I want to paint this before we move forward, because see, you can't look at standardized testing without first dealing with the difference between spiritual wisdom, okay, and human intellect, because human intellect can be controlled and manipulated, and you can be deceived based on human intellect. We know this from synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms, okay? So you can study that. There's no argument there. So let's keep that up, brother. Let's talk about the key differences moving forward. First, let's talk about human intelligence. And then we're going to do a polarity discussion here. We're going to mention a human intellect characteristic, and then we're going to mention a spiritual wisdom characteristic and compare the two. So a human intelligence focuses on knowing facts and solving problems, right? The spiritual wisdom focuses on understanding meaning and purpose. Big difference. Okay. So when you see these so-called highly intelligent people focusing on knowing facts and solving problems, all you got to do is get someone in the room, like this brother who is a receptor or a silicon, whatever you want to call it, who knows how to focus on understanding meaning and purpose. Because ultimately, and this is why people get disillusioned when you look at the script that says our people perish because of lack of vision. Now, when you have that vision being set by people that are outside this spectrum or outside the butterfly experience, then you have this schism, okay, where you're supposed to be focusing on understanding meaning and purpose, but you're focusing on, and you have to in this system, you better focus some on knowing facts and solving problems, but that's not the big picture. So we're talking the elephant in the room here. Human intelligence asks, how does this work? Tell me, give me a master class, show me how this works, right? Where in spiritual wisdom, you can sit down with yourself and ask the creatrix, why does this matter? And because once you know why something matters, then you can make a commitment to it. You can be devoted to it, or you have the true. Now, when we talk about you making decisions that you have a right to make, even though somebody is taken away through human intellect, your right to vote, which is really stupid, because I'm not going to get off into that. But again, the point is, when you have your best player sideline who can make the society much better, even though it's in a shambles, who have this ability to invent things and create things, okay, then you're hurting yourself just to prove. If I have to cheat to win, I don't want to win. That's, where we live in a society where winning at all costs often means that the winner is going to take all the spoils. That's the way they get us.
Exactly.
Okay. The other thing about human intelligence, one of the other characteristics is it's measured through performance and reasoning, so-called reasoning. But really, it's not measured through performance and result and reasoning, because you can't judge a person's true performance if you've taken away everything that they need in order to perform. And so when you look at the Black experience in America, all over the globe, but particularly here in America, Turtle Island, it shines a big light on the hill that you can't put out. Because when you go back again and look at every step along the way, okay, all the centuries, and you see this progression, this is how nature works. No matter what you throw in the way, let's use water. I don't care how many decades it takes, or even centuries. But if you put a drop from a spigot and it's dropping on a steel plate, it may take 20 years. Eventually, the water is going to go through that steel plate. Right. Okay. So they know these things from our people explaining and them studying, everything that we do. But again, let's look at this. So it's measured through performance and reasoning, but in spiritual wisdom, it's measured through judgment, character, and insight. Okay. So this is why, they've taken away your ability to have sound judgment, through emotionalism by attacking you. Okay. So again, it's very difficult to uphold these standards when you live in an Azul system where you're constantly being attacked. It's difficult because you got to protect yourself, got to protect your families, got to protect your friends, got to look out for other Black folks. This is a reality. Okay. But again, there is a mechanism within our existence. Okay. That, and I always like to say this script that my mom used to say: when the enemy comes in like a flood, the spirit of the Lord will rise up and lift up a standard against it. And when I go back and I look at these scripts and I take the emotion out of what our people used to say, it make a lot of sense, because they really knew it was a greater power. But the human intellectual folks, even though they stopped them from reading, brother, when you go back and look at our situation, it is truly amazing. It's so amazing that if an alien came down, they would be highly confused. They would be saying, why are these people on the bottom of this society? Why? That makes no, that to me is showing me, I'd be glad if I'm coaching against a coach where they got their best players on the bench. I'd be happy. Or if I'm playing and their best player is out. I mean, let's face it, you know, if you get an advantage, you get an advantage naturally. But we're not talking about creating unfair advantages. That is a low intellectual being to me. Okay. In human intellect, they also look at how can this increase power and capability? In other words, how can I use this to increase the greed, to increase and take away more, or to inflict more pain, have more power over God's children, the Creator's children? And how can it improve my capability if I take away the right of these human beings to vote? How could they? And first of all, no matter what you do, you can't stop the real plan. And it ain't Agenda 25 or whatever you call it, Project 20. It ain't that. Okay. From a spiritual wisdom, human beings look at how can this increase understanding and responsibility? So we go back to this caterpillar 2-year-old standardized way that we exist in this country, the so-called greatest country on the earth, which I totally disagree with. When you look at spiritual wisdom, you're supposed to be looking at how can this increase understanding and responsibility? But people who don't have spiritual wisdom or caterpillar standards, they don't look at the creator creatrix plan. They don't look at this and say, how can we increase understanding and responsibility? They don't want you to have any understanding or responsibility. They want you to be subject to their system so they can abuse you and our children, okay, in any way they can. Now let's look at one other thing too, is that human intelligence is concerned with information, okay? Whereas, like they do now, they use who system to collect. It's a data mining system, really, and that's really what it is. And so, like Lance was saying earlier, once they know your mama, your daddy, your cousin, your hit everywhere, where you go to the toilet, they know all this, your zip code. They don't need anything else. They have all this information. So you can go, you know what they say, go screw yourself. But they are just concerned with how much information they can gather on you. Whereas a person operating off of spiritual wisdom, two things happen. One, they are concerned with how does this transform us? How does this take us from a caterpillar to a butterfly? How does this get the monkey off of our back? Okay. And again, what I just said prior to that, how can this increase understanding responsibility? Because we go back to the old adage is, if a person says that they're supreme or have a higher intellect, but it doesn't increase understanding and responsibility, then how can a society move forward? That is impossible. So let's give some examples. Number one, in the human intellect frame, before we actually go into the bitch test, y'all all right?
Are we good?
Okay.
Are we good?
Okay, brother.
Keep flowing.
So the first, the first example on a human intellectual scale is a person with a high intelligence might know how to build powerful technology, obviously. But a person with spiritual wisdom might ask whether that technology should be used. So here we go again. We perish because of lack of vision. Who's asking, should we start another war? It's going to bankrupt America and the American people. Should we? See, this is what you have in order for the creative spirit to actually. I'll give a perfect example, because I hear a lot of people saying, well, how did God let this happen? No, it's not a matter. You don't have the proper, again, man, religion has really killed the spiritual wisdom of our people. But I don't care. You can draw up the best game plan for a game, because I've done it, and still lose the game. Because if the players don't implement it, it means nothing. So this is the issue we face. We don't even have the proper game plan. Or more importantly, the playbook that we have is geared towards destroying your best. Now, this is crazy. Your best players, instead of drawing up a game plan that can maximize the abilities of, you take Black women are being used in the wrong way. Okay? For us first. And again, the brother's going to get angry. I don't care. Okay? This ignorance has got to stop. Nobody is perfect. If you're going to decide the value of a person based on their, the way they operate in this Azul system, then you are already outside of the spectrum of understanding. Okay. And this is on us. Again, I want to reiterate something. Okay. Now, a person with intelligence might know how to build powerful technology, but a person with spiritual wisdom might ask whether that technology should be used, who it benefits, and what are the consequences it may have for humanity. So when you're thinking about humanity and not just the advantages that white males in a society can have, then you're already putting, first of all, this is so, I feel sorry for our children. I don't like the word sorry, but I really do. Until we step up and change this and fight against this, man, our children are going to live in a pure hell. And then we're always pointing a finger at them. Okay, when you should have a walk around with a mirror. Every time you see something they do, hold it up to you. Okay. Because if anyone that is in a position of leadership, your responsibility is to ask the person that is given the responsibility to make these decisions, is this the best thing for our nation? And more importantly, for humanity. And if it's not, you should not pursue it. Okay. So in many philosophical and spiritual traditions, intelligence is seen as the ability to acquire knowledge, while wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge in a way that promotes well-being, justice, and deeper understanding of life. So with that in mind, and the reason why I took so much time pointing that out is because that's going to show why we have to deal with this system of standardized tests. So again, we go back to the message for today, the IQ deception, what the bitch test proves about intelligence testing. And if you want to show our brother, Dr. Robert Williams, a man who they don't talk about. And the reason, again, yes, brilliant brother. And again, I always say to our people, whenever I get this opportunity, is we have to go back into the vault, look at our own scholars who sacrificed their lives to bring us truth. And we are missing a crucial opportunity because we are emotionally attached to caterpillar energy that is continuing to take us away from our primary focus. Now let's talk about this brother, because I don't know if you guys can read that little caption over his head, but this was put on by the Advanced Hindsight organization, but it's center. It says today.
Oh, you can read it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Today, the Center for Advanced Hindsight continues our celebration of Black History Month by highlighting another African-American scholar whose work has been foundational in psychology and behavioral science, Dr. Robert L. Williams. And I can tell you, this brother was a big inspiration in my life. Because, you know, again, oh, wow. Now they got.
He fell off again. I'm going to have to wait for him to come on back in. Just as we were getting some traction. Okay, here he is.
It's all good because, like you said, when you throw that punch, you leave your body open, and that punch, that counter punch is coming right now. So the BITCH test, which this brother, after he did his research, is the Black Intelligence Test of Cultural Homogeneity. Okay. Dr. Robert L. Williams, the title was intentionally provocative to draw attention to cultural bias in intelligence testing. The test used 1, Black slang, 2, Black cultural references, and 3, urban as opposed to suburban cultural knowledge. The foundational origins of IQ testing in the United States, and this is very important. The Alfred Binet test, which was constructed in 1905, the modern IQ concept began with Alfred Binet in early 1900s in France in 1905. Binet created tests to identify school children who needed additional educational support, not to prove permanent superiority or inferiority between groups. And see, this is part of that whole eugenics movement, because they had to justify why you are using this Nazi ideology in a society that's supposed to be progressing, right? So the idea involved into IQ intelligence quotient or testing in the US over time. So over time, the IQ test became widely used in schools, military placement, psychological evaluations, academic admissions. Now, this professor out of UC Berkeley, I believe, University of California, Arthur R. Jensen, in 1923, at UC Berkeley, educational psychology research on intelligence sparked major controversy. Okay, he argued that genetics play a primary role in intelligence, and I believe he was outside of his spectrum of understanding because he certainly couldn't understand and comprehend what genetics is, making that kind of statement, right? And also that racial gaps in IQ test scores are partially biological. So here we see this push for this ideology that they infused into American racism in their institutions and now in their religion, where critics like Dr. Williams argued that IQ testing in America was used in racist or class-based ways, especially during the early 20th century in the era of eugenics. Coined in 1833 by Francis Galton, it advocated for selective breeding, so-called superior people, to reproduce and preventing so-called inferior people from having children. It is often referred to as race science. Now, this also, unfortunately, had a big impact on Latino countries, where they were indoctrinated to keep the race white, right? We know this. I learned a lot more about this here in California. You don't see it so much on the East Coast, but you see it a lot in Central American countries, Mexico, and South America. Where you would have a country of brown people like Argentina to vote with Israel and the United States against just even declaring that slavery was wrong. It's the biggest, by far, atrocity committed, horrific atrocity committed against humankind. But also, now let's talk about the bitch test, or the BITCH test. Sorry, AI. The Black Intelligence Test of Cultural Homogeneity, a 1972 culturally specific intelligence test created by psychologist Dr. Robert L. Williams. It highlighted how traditional standardized IQ tests were biased against Black communities by featuring vocabulary and experiences rooted in Black culture, designed to challenge racial biases and standardized testing. So in other words, what this test, and we're going to see reveal, is that whatever culture the testing items are germane to and who designed and structured the testing items, the individuals that come out of that culture are naturally going to have the highest so-called standard intelligence or normality, the word they like to use in studies. Now let's look at origins and purpose, the problem. Williams noticed that Black children and minority students were frequently misevaluated and labeled as having learning disabilities or low IQs. And that's why you hear that term being thrown around. It's almost like they're spitting in your face because they know the real truth behind this. It's just another way to slander our people. Okay. This was because standardized tests only measured knowledge of white middle class environments. And it was important that he discovered that, because that, again, that was at the foundation of this test that was so very, very important, because this actually stopped them from putting these labels on our children that would follow them throughout their lives, even in their professional careers. And again, this was deliberate. Williams found that when tests were geared toward language and lifestyle of Black Americans, that Black test takers scored significantly higher, exposing how standardized testing systems inherently personalize cultural differences. So in other words, they took their cultural strengths, put it in the design of the test, and then use those same advantages to say that you are inferior, because that's like me taking all the strengths I have, and we're going to see this today, and judging you by it, and then when you fail to live up to it, saying, see, I told you I was better than you. So let's look at how the test actually worked, okay? And this is extremely important. The test consisted of 100 multiple choice vocabulary questions. And see, this is a true test using multiple choices, not having something where you've got to give a yes or no or open-ended. And see, this is a sales tactic. I know this very well. I was very proficient at this, becoming very good at sales and a top producer in the sales industry when I was in it, is that you always ask, you never ask open-end questions, because then that gives the person the ability to think. I mean, it's cruel, but it's, when you look at this, this is how the same games that they use with our people. But it was a vocabulary test, and you ask the question, well, how can people fail an open book test, right? But the test consisted of 100 multiple choice vocabulary questions derived from the Dictionary of Afro-American Slang. It primarily evaluated cultural literacy and knowledge of Black American language patterns, which is extremely important. It often referred to as Ebonics, okay? The sample questions tested knowledge of slang terms like clean. Man, you clean, bro. Which meant very well dressed. Everybody in the Black community know this, right? You're not gonna have a brother or a sister walk up to you saying, you are very well dressed. No, they're gonna say, damn, you clean. You see what I'm saying? So this is a cultural difference in the vernacular of Black or urban culture as opposed to suburban culture. This was brilliant that this brother uncovered this in his research. Also, the original sample used in the experiment consisted of 100 white and 100 Black St. Louis high school students aged 16 to 18 years old. So he got a good sample from both groups. Half of them being from low socioeconomic levels, obviously Black kids or children in the city of St. Louis. And the other half from middle income levels, or kids, or white kids. Williams also had data from 2 other samples of Blacks and whites. So he didn't just use a caterpillar study. That's always used because, again, when you look at the bigger spectrum, and I'll never forget this popular picture they have when the Buffalo Soldiers took San Juan Hill, okay, and the Rough Riders, Teddy Roosevelt, that's how he became president. Lance, you know this story from New York. They had a narrow picture of all the white soldiers, the Rough Riders. But as technology expanded, when you zoomed out, you saw all the Buffalo Soldiers around. I mean, like hundreds of them, like just. And so it's a famous story when Teddy Roosevelt, when he became president, and he came through San Francisco. The what's his name? I can't think of one of the first graduates of West Point was in the crowd. Man, why can't I think of this brother's name? But anyway, Teddy Roosevelt stopped the procession, got out, and shook his hand, and some of the Buffalo soldiers that was around him, because Teddy Roosevelt, and now at this time, it was not, you're not supposed to acknowledge Black people and Black soldiers in that way. And, but he did. And I'll think his name's later. Great brother, somebody that Black folks really know about. One of the first Black generals who was treated in a way that, you know, still treated him as a second-class citizen. But this test was crucial, okay? And the point I was trying to make is, so they hide a lot of the other aspects of a study simply to make, you know, a narrow or a caterpillar point. So he did a brilliant thing. He went and got, he got data from 2 other samples of Blacks and whites. And these samples included 25 Black and 13 white college students from Mississippi and 19 white graduate students from Boston University. So he got students from the South. He met all the demographics, were white and Black. And then he got them from the North, which was white and Black. He got them from high school. He got them from undergrad, and he got them from graduate. And also students from Boston University. And out of the 200 students who participated in the original sample, now these numbers are going to blow your mind, but this is at the heart of the point today and why we say that the BITCH brilliant test proved the deception involved in standardized testing. So the 100 Black students answered 87 out of 100 answers correctly. And the whites answered only 51 out of 100 questions correctly. So it proved the point that if I designed the questions on the test from my cultural experience in the lexicon of Afro, Black Americans, African Americans, whatever name you want to call them, then we are going to overwhelmingly have a higher intellectual scale. And that's what that test proved. I'm going to read these statistics again. This is not AI, this is Neil Frazier, by the way. The original sample of Black students answered 87 out of 100 questions correct. They were in the top 10 percentile. And the whites answered 51 out of 100 questions correctly, which would put them in a lower 50 percentile. Okay. And that's extremely important because our kids get their whole lives. I've personally seen it. I've personally been in arguments concerning this. One of the things that they do is when they identify you and your teaching styles, and they block your certification. So I was perfectly satisfied. Well, I preferred, substitute teaching because I was on a list of all the schools in the DC public school system. Okay, so and some in Baltimore, but primarily, every day I would have 15 schools calling me, Mr. Frazier, can you come in? So, and I like that flexibility, but I also like the fact that I got a chance to observe different schools, and even in Atlanta at Washington High School, when I was at Clark, Atlanta, this school, which was in Bankhead Courts, which was a pretty rough part of Atlanta, these kids, they became really big. They were called, why can't I think of Crisscross? They were students at Archer High School when I was teaching there during the year that I was doing the internship there. But that school, they had their special education program was under heavy scrutiny because the principal there, this brother, he was like, saying, okay, but we can't judge our children and put these unfair labels on them that's going to follow them all their lives, calling them having a behavior disorder. And then I found out, I told you, Lance, I found out much later that this was used to put the kids on Ritalin. And that still has a major impact. The kids you see standing on the corners of these major cities, Baltimore, New York, Philadelphia, DC, Chicago, wherever you see them, chain smoking, I would bet that the majority of them at some point went through that special ed system, was identified as having some kind of behavior disorder or learning disorder and put on Ritalin. And, I had a personal experience with that as well. In one of the middle schools in DC that they were, it was a pilot program, but they shut it down because, man, I don't even want to think about it, but it was a bad experience. But the fact of the matter is that what they do is they use these labels to justify putting our children in inferior positions. But when we look at the results of the bitch test, now what am I going to say now? That you're inferior? That there's no such thing as white supremacy? It just depends on which test you're using to evaluate our children. So again, I say to our people, this is the best time that the creators open up the opportunity for us to educate our children, to educate them based on who we are. Now, here's because again, this war that they're fighting against us, they fight on all fronts. So they know that in order for our children, and when you think about it, our children and us had to have a very, very high intellect because we still excelled based on the unfair advantages of the normative culture with their standardized tests, right? We still have kids who have, based on that standard, the highest IQs ever recorded on this planet, right? Or you have the kid I was talking about earlier, who you say is has the spiritual wisdom that you say is a idiot savant that can take a snap, ride over a city like London, have a photographic memory and write the time on a watch when somebody walking by on there. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
show the eyelashes on a woman, the braids in their hair. Bruh, it's deep. So when our children know that we have this type of ability, that's why that question mark you had inside that brain immediately hit me, because this question is naturally what our kids grapple with when they take these tests. Okay, because imagine growing up in a culture where you have never been exposed, and we're going to show a couple of the words right here, kind of bring a spotlight to this. So here's the interpretation of this test, okay? That the results of the test showed that the Black group performed much better than the white group, and that the white students performed more poorly on this test the blacks, suggesting that there are important similarities in the cultural backgrounds of blacks and whites. The results of these tests and examination of the BITCH test, 100 confirmed Robert L. Williams' belief that his intelligence test dealt with content material that was familiar to black students, which is extremely important. So if I'm more familiar to something than you are, I don't care. You can graduate from Harvard, Georgetown, wherever you graduate from. But if I'm more familiar with something than you, then I'm going to have a higher test score on that question than you are. Okay, that's just the bottom line. Also, however, there exists a restriction, okay, of range in the current form of the test, thereby limiting its usefulness as an instrument used for selection. So I was writing real light. My pen started giving out, I guess. But this is an important distinction that there exists a restriction. So there's, again, just like when you restrict the Voting Rights Act of our people. And that's why I have this hat today in honor of our ancestors and their fight. And it's not going to be for naught. 1969. There's some great things that happened in 1969 because they thought after they wiped out all of our leaders, they thought that they had destroyed sun energy or blocked the sun, which that's why when they look at you and I, this is what they see, no matter what they tell you on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. When they see you, this is what they see. Okay. So when you restrict the range of let's say if you have a restriction, thank you, creators. If you're a ball player, then your range of motion is very important in how effective you are in whatever sporting event you're in. So the same thing is with mental gymnastics. If you're being blocked from your range of motion or restricted by a highly intellectual individual, then it's going to, and black people have always found a way around, through, over, or under whatever roadblocks, stumbling blocks that or a block that vampires have put up before us. We've always found that. Okay, but this test, it also shows the current form of the test, thereby limiting its usefulness as an instrument used for selection. Some argue that these findings indicate that test bias plays a role in producing the gaps in IQ testing scores that they use to evaluate our children. So this is just like you know, taking away the Voting Rights Act, which is crazy. Because again, you're saying that the creator doesn't have the right to allow the children of the creator to have free will, but you're their God. So you're going to choose this. You see how these people play God and don't know that they have put themselves in harm's way? To me, that's a low intellectual individual, because high intellectual to how you improve, not go back. Nature teaches that we evolve from our lower consciousness, the caterpillar mentality, to our higher consciousness, the butterfly mentality. And this is at the core of where we see this memorandum of understanding that we have right now in our society. Also, another great point is Both of these tests demonstrate how cultural content on intelligence tests may lead to culturally biased score results. Okay. Okay. You there?
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
Can you hear me?
It's back straight. Yeah, you good.
Okay. Let me do this. Okay. I had to disconnect that Bluetooth because, man, it can work through any one of these devices. Okay.
Tilt it up a little
So,
bit.
huh?
Tilt the top part back away from you a little bit so you can see your face, because your
Put
face is
that.
cut off.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Let me get something to hold it. Come on. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me see. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. That's perfect, brother.
Okay. Now, but that's fine. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we
But
can hear
your
you.
volume is kind of low, Lance.
Oh, it is? Uh-oh.
On my side. But
Okay, how is it
you
now?
can hear me, right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, I'll continue. So the IQ test scores, both of these tests demonstrate how cultural content on intelligence tests may lead to culturally biased score results, which every group, I'm sorry, whichever group the testing items are germane to, I made this statement earlier, uh, will always outperform all other groups. And that's very important to remember. So whoever is designing it, designing the system you're in, designing whatever. And the point I wanted to make earlier is the reason why, I get it. This is one of the reasons why they'll allow us to have churches in our community, but not businesses. They won't fund you, or you can't get capital, um, to fund a business. In many cases, when they know that it's a Black business, which they don't do the same thing with other cultures. This is the main reason, because they know that whenever you get your hand on something, then you're going to multiply it. Okay. So and they also know that you because you have this ability, that there has to be certain restrictions put in place. So imagine getting in a ring and having your hands tied behind your back, and you in the ring with my cousin or Muhammad Ali or George Foreman. What you think gonna happen? Or Mike Tyson? You're gonna get knocked out before the bell even rings. So this is why they do this. Okay. Now let's look at examples of cultural and linguistic expressions on the test. And this is extremely important. And this is going to home in the point of what we're talking about today. Okay. Is that these examples of cultural and linguistic expressions are very important. Number one, the one of the questions they ask, so you have 3 squirrels climbing a tree. One begins at the bottom. That word begin is very important. One is at the middle of crawling up the tree, and then you have one that's on the branch on the tree. So the question was, which squirrel is beginning to climb the tree? Okay. And which one? Now here's the difference, right? the black kids, whenever they did that on a standardized test, a lot of them failed that question. Because like that question mark in their brain that you had on your banner, these are the type of things that go through the minds of our children. So, but when they ask on the BITCH test, which squirrel is finna or fixing to, to climb up the tree, 100%. So all they did was change out one word. Which one of the squirrels is fixing to start climbing up the tree? And automatically the black kids said, oh, he's fixing. That squirrel is fixing to start climbing up the tree, or that squirrel is finished start climbing up the tree. But when you ask the white kids, which one of the squirrels is fixing to climb up the tree, they thought he was talking about how the squirrel's going to fix or get the nuts. They had no comprehension of this. Or when they asked on the BITCH test, which one of the squirrels is finna climb the tree, the white kids didn't know what the hell he was talking about. The other question that a lot of black kids scored high on and the white kids scored low on is the toy is behind the sofa. So they had a sofa and they had a toy behind it. Well, a lot of black kids got that wrong. White kids, Asian kids, a lot of them, they know what that is. They're living a suburban life. That's a beautiful sofa. But soon as they asked the black kids, where is the toy behind the couch? Guess what? It flipped. The black kids immediately knew you're talking about their word sofa. But a lot of white kids knew this too. They knew, but for some reason, in our vernacular, we use the word couch more than sofa. I don't know the reason for that. That's just the way it is. Okay. So these are the types of things. It doesn't mean that this child has a lower intellect than you. It means that in their memorandum of understanding from their culture and the lexicon in that culture, that terminology is outside their memorandum of understanding, where couch is within that structure. So the last example that I'm going to use that really, really kind of funny, this is kind of funny because I had an auntie named Ruth. So the last one was, what is the color of ruby? So white should, no, not color. It said, what is ruby? Okay. The white kids naturally picked multiple choice. They picked jewelry. The black kids, because that name Ruby is kind of really prevalent in our community back in the day. A lot of our women were named Ruby. So the black kids said, mom, someone said my mom or my auntie or my sister or, or whatever. Now, remember, we're talking back in the 70s. So this was still a part of our culture. So when you said Aunt Ruby, that's who the black kids thought about. Again, it wasn't that they were inferior intellectually, but again, out of their culture, that's what they interpreted. So finally, in the BITCH test, Williams' main thesis was not that black children were more intelligent than white children or vice versa. His point was to demonstrate that, number one, test performance changes depending on cultural familiarity, and that intelligence tests can privilege or be biased towards one culture or the other, or more specifically, the culture of the people who designed them. Number three, what society calls intelligence is partly shaped by cultural assumptions. In demonstrations, like the ones we just gave off the test, the majority of white participants performed poorly on the test because they lacked the cultural familiarity of Black children. Okay, similar to how some Black students historically encountered unfamiliar cultural assumptions on mainstream standardized IQ tests. Now, here's the larger significance of the test and what we're discussing today. That the debate around IQ and culturally biased testing raises deeper questions, okay, which spiritual wisdom encompasses. Number one, is intelligence universal or culturally expressed? Can one test fairly measure all populations and all cultures that are being tested? Number three, how much does environment and opportunity shape measured performance, or the old nature nurture controversy? Number four, are schools measuring raw or natural abilities or learned cultural adaptation? We know the answer to that. They're measuring how well you adapt to suburban vernacular, okay, and the overall acculturation of the normative, their word, society. Now, I was mentioning earlier why this matters and why our people have to have this almost like two personalities, because when you get those degrees, you still have to go to them for employment. And see, that is at the, you can use the term, this is how they have us by the balls. And this is the issue we have with our children, is that we can't guarantee their employment. And see, Lance, we did a show on this. What are Black people going to do when we cannot
I
employ our
remember.
own children? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I remember that.
See, these are all questions that we now, as butterflies now that you're woke and moving into the, and now you see why they demonize words that are so important, like woke, because this word is at the foundation of who you are. Thank God you're woke and still awakening. Okay. Number four, we asked this question again. Are schools measuring raw or natural ability or learned cultural adaptation? Most modern psychologists agree that intelligence is influenced by both biology or you know, where who your parents are, the people that you are around, that's why man, it's like a gut punch to me when I hear some of these 3 and 4-year-olds. That's why, again, why I created this book, audio book, and app for children, because it's so very important in the sense that that they are influenced by their biological environment. So when you're teaching them how to twerk, instead of teaching them about someone like Justice Kajanji, or whatever her first name is, Katanji, I think. I hate screwing up people's names. Jackson, who is a brilliant Supreme Court justice. And when you have someone that it was at the level she was in the DC legal system, you're talking about a powerful sister, okay? I don't care what they say. But when our sisters have her as a roadmap, a symbol, someone to inspire or aspire to be, as opposed to someone who is using the platform that the Creator gave you to destroy his children, you're going to be dealt with. Trust me. Not by Neil Frazier, or not by none of us, but there's a higher power than this Azul system that you are supposed to be working for the best interest of your people and all Americans. So how does it help America by you taking away our right to participate in the progress of our nation that we have given all this blood, sweat, and tears to? Who gives you the right to do this? Okay, and why? So when you put the two of them, the polarity war, the natural war that exists, particularly with the creatrix spirit, unfortunately, the creatrix spirit with our sisters are the ones that's holding us. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but they're holding us down. And I don't care. You can disagree with me. I don't care. I don't get my memorandum of understanding from the Azul system. So my downloads come from what you saw with our picture with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Whatever they upload, they can do whatever they want. I have nothing to do with that because they have you thinking that they control, and they do. They control the fiat system. But because we're operating outside of spiritual wisdom, then the consequences come as a result of us being under their thumb. So finally, I was saying that all modern psychologists agree that both biology and environment. So again, when you have children that come out of the environment that we expose them to, and they go out into the world, okay, this world is going to present a major challenge to them because it contradicts Meotan laws, first of all. But then they substitute a religion of hate. So this causes a schism right away, brother. This is schizophrenia. And it causes a situation where we have to protect our children, their spirits, their minds. We can't keep feeding them. I don't care what celebrity did what. That is not doing anything to help. Now, if that celebrity is coming and saying, okay, this is how we're going, this is a game plan to help. I'm fixing to or finna do something to change the dynamics, which certainly they have. When you have a bighorn and a platform to do that, okay, but you don't, that's not spiritual wisdom, okay? And see, I don't need to degrade other people to bring this point out. A lot of these celebrities, they're in the same position we're in. The only difference is they have the fiat to believe that they're living comfortably in their system. And they might, based on materialism. This is why they're always uploading this to you, for you to throw away your purpose, sell your soul, and then teach your children that you should have big gold chains around your neck and driving Rolls Royces and living in mansions and then look down on everybody else. Come on, brother. We're not here to play today. We're facing a system where we have to fight that. But you can't. So, and here's the insanity of this. You cannot go to this and use the same tactics that the system that have you in this oppressive state and come out of it. In other words, you can't use caterpillar tactics to become a butterfly. That is impossible. We know it's impossible. So, and that is the height of insanity. Okay. And I'm not saying you shouldn't aspire to own real estate, land. I'm not so big on cars. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But if that floats your boat, then that's fine. But a lot of that money that while you laughing at people pushing carts and 10 of them living in a house, They investing in each other's businesses, and I applaud that, whichever culture it is. Okay. See, we've got to come out of this, brother. We have got to. Because now, like Dr. John Henry Clark says, we have no friends. So when you're in this fiat-driven or slow system, you have to look at people that you can identify, and you ain't got to like them, okay? You just have to think above certain things and say, okay, if it's going to help our culture and our children, then so be it. So this is why you can have a brother to lose $179.5 million, or however much it is, and then our people do the same thing to vampires who have done this to him, which he has to take full credit for. I know how our people think, like they do, but I'm sure he learned some lessons from this. And if you're a champion in boxing, the hardest sport on the planet, and you go through what they go through and you literally die, okay, physically, and you have to go through all the things that boxers have to go through, okay, he can bounce back from this. I hope he learned the lesson, because that fiat we often talked about, that they can devalue it from $1 million to $10,000 overnight. This is a prime example. Okay, so we need to wrap our arms around this brother, not tear him, because see, they reward that they're used to come against Floyd Mayweather, who I have a lot of respect for this brother. You know, any brother that has to fight his way to the top. Again, I don't have to agree with everything that he did, mainly putting all of his purpose into fiat, which you can put a fire to it and burn up. We often say, like leaves, all of it, and the materialism, and they can take it away, like they did with Michael Jackson when he finally woke up and start calling them out. Then look how they responded. After making all this building, like they do our people, they build their economic foundation on us, and then they turn around and say you're low IQ. One of the reasons why they do that too is because in a low-key way, they're trying to sham you, saying you're the creator of this, but yet I'm the one that's making the billions off of. So our people, you know, again, the good thing about us being woke is now we're looking at where we're supposed to look at. And this is extremely important moving forward. And finally, the other thing that modern psychologists agreed on was that no single test captures the range of human ability, and that scholars such as Dr. Amos Wilson, Howard Gardner, and Robert Sternberg argued that human intelligence includes many dimensions of acculturation beyond traditional IQ scores. I think I'll end with that one, brother.
Excellent. Man, you came with a flurry the whole time. The king of Mondays.
Queue up, because I can barely hear you, but
yeah, I don't know what's going on with this phone. Because like I said, I had some problems with the equipment, so the audio is not going to be what it is, but you put it down, brother.
Yeah, man, a great day. I hope that this was something that can help our people in our fight for justice. You guys stay woke, stay aware of what's happening, identify the things we need to identify. Like when you have to go to the bathroom, eliminate everything else. And
there you go.
Hold on to the bells, brother, and you and the family have a great and prosperous day.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning on in. I got to correct some things here with the equipment. I'm coming with some more content tonight. And tomorrow will be a wrap. We're going to do it again. Much love to you all. Take care.